Hey everyone, David from Statfreaks, and in today's session we're going to explore our horse racing virtual data tables. So once you're logged in with your account and you've subscribed to a horse racing membership package, you can navigate to the horse racing area under the members section, and then clicking on the data table tab will display the data tables for horse racing. So we have currently 6 tables and a few that explore the jockey riders and their profiles. We have some that explore the market price and also a rail and track leader table. So first we'll start off with the non-jockey tables and quickly go through them. They're a little bit less complex, and then we'll dive into the jockey tables. So the first one we'll probably explore is the track rail data table. So this table allows us to analyze strike rates across tracks and when the rail is positioned in a certain position, looking at the top 4 runners and where they're settling at the 800 meter point. And it's used to be able to identify where tracks and rails may contain a bias and there may be advantage or disadvantage. So we explore runners positioned in the top 4 positions at the 800. We're using data from 2014 till current, and where we have for that scenario greater than 100 records, and we're using verified sectional times to accurately identify the positioning you're running, courtesy of daily sectionals. And we have highlighted certain scenarios where the strike rate's higher than 18%. We highlighted green. Top 3 highlights green for the place getters, and also the top 3 strike rate greater than 35% highlights green. And then the market edges also highlight as well. And then we've got a glossary of the variables on the right hand side here. Now this table is updated roughly every 7 days, every week. And we'll scroll down. We've got all the functions here to print to your printer, export to Excel, CSV and PDF. Now there are some filters at the top, so you can lock onto specific states. For example, I look onto Victoria, and I can look at specific tracks. So I might look at right, and then I've got data here which I can explore for that specific track. So for Ararat, when the rail's true, we have the average SP or average price for the top 4 the runners in the top 4, and then we also have the wins, places and top 3. So if you're in the top 4, you're roughly winning 16.9% of the time. So the winner will come out of the top 4 16.9% of the time. It would place horses will place around 40.5%, and then the top 3 as well place 44.8. And then we also have the win strike rate, which is 100 divided by 16.9, and then the average price of the winners. So you can see for that track specifically how it sort of works. Even with the rail, once it comes out to 1 to 3 meters, the strike rate's still roughly the same. Different number of records, but the price is a little bit different when it comes to the placings and also the average win price. But this track's very close, so I suspect a lot of other tracks will be different. So that's a cool table which can be explored and utilized. So moving on to the market price data table. So what this one does is explores strike rates for runners when they're either a favourite or second favourite or third favourite, and when they're positioned at a certain point at the 800 metre point in country, metro, provincial races, what are their strike rates and what are their average SP, the win, strike rates, the place, etc. So I like this table. It's quite useful in the sense that if I wanted to explore, let's just say, runners that are ranked third favourite on the market in a race, and then they're positioned in the lead, and it's a metro race, I can look up that information fairly quickly. So I can see if you're the third ranked horse in the race on price and you're leading at the 800 metre point, you roughly win 19.6% of the time. And then correspondingly your average strike rate price which is 19.6 converted, and then the average price you'd be getting on the market for it. So this is all off historical data, of course. You can then see if you're positioned second at the 800 metre point, then what impact that has in metro races overall. So leading, and then favourites, for example, we can see win 43.7% of the time at metro races, and that will change as you go through to country as well. So that table there is regularly updated and is very useful for exploring what is occurring in the market. So this information can be used obviously if you're doing the form and you're looking at an upcoming race and the horse you like's second in the market and you've got a rough idea he's going to settle second or first. You can look at those strike rates and see and possibly factor in some of those things based off historical statistics. Now the track leader data table. This one explores different tracks, and basically if you're in the lead at certain tracks, then what is your strike rates? So at Broome, basically if you're leading at the 800, then roughly win 38% of the time, and then the price that is getting obtained for that. So that's off historical actual data, and that's another great table to explore leaders. Now the jockey tables, we'll start with the jockey leader table. So this looks at specific riders and for upcoming riders, and looks at their performance when they're leading at the 800 metre point. So some jockeys are really good in the data set when they're leading at the 800 metre point versus some others. So it's just an interesting insight into different jockeys and what they're doing. So it can be used to isolate certain jockeys and look at their historical strike rate for when they're leading, and then what is corresponding of the average price. Now that price that the average SP, that's not the official SP, that's something we capture. It's an average sort of price we document, so just keep that in mind. But that's the jockey leader table, which is I quite like this table a lot. Now we have the advanced jockey table. Now this table is probably used the most in our forum with our members, And what this basically does, it explores upcoming meetings and the distance type and where we predict the horse will settle, and then how that jockey usually performs when they're settled in that pack. And we have a rear pack, lead pack, and mid pack. So this table is a little bit more complex, but it is a mixture of historical data and then balanced out or linked up to upcoming data. It's probably why it's the most used. And the way it works is, by default, it'll sort by the jockeys with the highest strike rates for the scenario that we predict is going to occur today versus what they've done historically when they've actually settled in that position. So if we look at, for example, these first few riders, we can see that, you know, at Wyong, this rider is in a sprint race in race 3, and we predict that runner or the rider and the horse are going to settle in the lead pack. Now historically, when this rider here has been in a sprint race and has settled in the lead pack, they've gone on to win 35% of the time and place 64.8% of the time, and have a market edge of $2.30. So it is quite interesting to look at things in that scenario. Now it then highlights the horse that's the ride. Now we've added some extra variables in recently to this table, and we look at the lengths and rank, which basically align to the SFR data on the reports. So the lengths is basically this one here, SLB, and then the SFR is there as well. So when you see a 1.7, sorry, it's the SFR here, and then when there is a rank, that means where's it ranked in the race on the SFR. So basically giving us the ability to isolate, alright, show me all the horses today who are ranked 1, the best ranked horse we have in each race, and then show me the strike rates. So, you know, Wangaratta didn't run today, but we've got you know, this Wagga race 2, Wagga race 2, we've got a lead pack for this rider, and we can see the historical riding strike rate for that scenario, and then also the place, and then, you know, the lengths in the SFR. So it's a great table. You'll notice a lot of the high strike rates are in from the lead, but you might isolate rear rides, and it'll have a look at, right, who performs well from rear rides. There's a lot of value in looking at horses that will settle rear and who can ride them well. In my opinion, generally the rider will know that the horse is going to settle rear. They've maybe done their homework and sort of predicted how the race is going to be run, and it will suit a rear sort of ride. So that's quite useful, and the more you use this table, the more you will start to see those insights, like myself and many other members have, which has become quite useful in the past. And then looking at sort of the mids, and we're only locked onto the ranked 1 runners, but then you could also do the top 4, and then look at the top 4 and work your way through that. So many different ways to use this table, but nevertheless it's probably it is my most favorite virtual table, and it's extremely useful. Now the final table is the Jockey Challenge Predictor, which we recently added. And what this does is it looks at our reports, and any horse that's settled first, or we predict is going to be first, will get 3 points. Anything we have second will get 2 points, and everything we have third will get 1 point. And then it basically tallies it all up on the day for today and gives us a predicted score for each rider and the average SFR. So this is an example of a rider who's got 7 rides today, and out of those 7 rides for Cairns, we've ranked the rides rank means this rider at this track has 7 rides, which there might be another rider who's got 8 rides. That rider would get rides rank 1. So if we locked onto Cairns, for example, this rider here, the third one down, has ride ranks 1, means they've got the most rides on the day, where this one here at the top's got the second most rides of the day. Then we look at the average SFR. So for all the rides this rider has on the day, which is 7, it goes through and averages out their SFR, and the higher the better. And then it also ranks the SFRs. So if they've got 5 rides and they're all ranked first and second, this rank will be fairly low. So to use this table, you want to be able to identify where they've got a decent, well, from my experience, a decent amount of rides on the day with a high SFR and a low SFR rank and a good predicted score. That way you know that most of their rides are good rides, and across the day all their SFRs are consistently high, which means they're going to perform above the average of the field. Their rank in each race is fairly low, which means they're also very high at the top end of the field. And then they've got a decent amount of rides on the day, so more chances to score points, and then also a good predicted score. So that it's very important, and it's quite a useful table if you're exploring, especially Jockey Challenge markets, and if you're exploring those kind of things, which is I use a fair bit, this table, and it's fairly quick to access on the mobile and tablet, and is great in that perspective. So just to recap, everything for the data tables can be found under members, horse racing, data tables. Now you need, with the horse racing, you need a membership for horse racing to be able to use these tables, either a day pass or monthly. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below, and we will see you next time.